Somebody came to show me about one write-up where they said there's one professor that wrote. I asked him, professor of which university? Nobody knows. But he's a professor. They say he's a professor of law. Where has he taught law? Nobody knows. Where has he advocated law? Nobody knows. But it's only a professor of law in social media. They had the opportunity. They were given the opportunity in Human Rights Commission. Ask them. What was their performance? What was the record? When the government gave the opportunity to be there? Zero.
You brought Alimbodu Sheriff, you brought him down. You brought Secondus, you pull him down. You brought Ayu, you pull him down. It's about money. If you look at Wike's life, it's all about money. What he gets out of the system. If we look at Wike's 8 years as governor of Rivers State, he looted over 2 trillion naira. If you listen to Wike's speech from 1999 when he became local government chairman, up to date as minister, FCT minister, you can't hear Wike say, my people. People are about the people. It's about power. Acquiring more power, acquiring more wealth. Wike to win election, you have to write a result for him. Wike has never won election on a popular vote. 2015, Gesela Khan and Mbu wrote result for him. 2015, police and INEC wrote result for him. Wike can never win election here and will never win. He's not a popular candidate. He doesn't believe in election and he cannot participate in any popular election. Wike is bent on burning down Nigeria. And you know the story of betrayers. Tinubu should go and ask Jonathan the relationship he has with Wike as we speak. Everything about Wike is power, remaining in power. Wike has no friend. Wike has nobody he's loyal to. Go and find out who is Wike loyal to. Who does Wike listen to? Nobody. It's about power. If tomorrow the pendulum changes, Wike will ultimately change to the next man. We have sent this warning long ago, and we have sent the signal to Tinubu long ago. Be wary of Wike. Wike doesn't have a friend. He doesn't have a master.
That's the true definition of who Nyesom Wike is. All through his political career, Nyesom Wike has fought with virtually everyone he has worked with. All Nyesom Wike cares about is power and money. That's the reason why Nyesom Wike can go to any length, do anything to get whatever he wants. It's only in Nigeria that you describe a professor of law as nobody. It's only in Nigeria that you describe a professor of law as having no impact in this country. It shows how politicians see lawyers. They see lawyers as their puppets. Chidi Odinkalu is not just a professor of law. He's not just a human rights activist. He has worked as an advisor for the Ford Foundation, New York, World Bank, African Union, International Council for Human Rights Policy, Geneva, and many others. This is who Nyesom Wike is describing as someone. This can only happen in Nigeria. And what exactly is the problem, and why is Nyesom Wike criticizing Odinkalu? Professor Odinkalu told the newly sworn-in Chief Justice of Nigeria that she ought not to be seen around with politicians. And that is right. As a Chief Justice of the Federation, even if you have any affiliation with any of these politicians, you should keep it discreet, you should keep it secret. You should not be seen openly with them, because you are going to send in a negative perception about you. The people will not trust your judgment anymore. You cannot be seen around with politicians that will frequent your courts to get judgment. Justice Kudarat Kekere was seen to have honored an invitation from Nyesom Wike. She was also seen to have honored an invitation from the Lagos State government, Sanwo-Olu. This has raised a lot of outrage, as people are saying that Sanwo-Olu has a case with the EFCC that is in the Supreme Court. How then will Justice Kudarat Kekere give a fair judgment on Sanwo-Olu when the case is being brought to our court? And there are a lot of talks about Nyesom Wike buying judges. However, Professor Odinkalu has replied Nyesom Wike. He called him a glutton, a power-drunk politician. He had a space on X where he completely took Nyesom Wike to the cleaners. I want you to listen to him.
I think it's plainly absurd, and that's putting it mildly, that the Chief Justice could sit in that encounter. And, I've heard people like OCJ Okocha, the former president of the Nigerian Bar Association, who actually was Attorney General of Rivers State at around the time that Wike was coming to the Nigerian Bar, and who now is dancing on your mandate we shall stand to the same Wike singing it, right? And I've heard OCJ, defend the kind of thing that the Chief Justice did. So let me try and explain, because OCJ has claimed that he is an eminent lawyer. I personally, he's over 70 years old, and as a former president of the Nigerian Bar Association, I've got to have some respect for that. I also, because I have respect for that position as a former president of the Nigerian Bar Association who is over 70 years old, I have got to say that I am worse than disappointed that a 70-year-old senior advocate with over 30 years experience as a senior advocate can be twerking to "On Your Mandate We Shall Stand" being sung by a man who has never gone to court. I don't owe him. The only thing I have to do is a duty of my own truth as a citizen of Nigeria. Anyone who is not disappointed by that has to have something wrong with their values. And so I also take, therefore, with a pinch of salt, the views of people like OCJ, who are quite clearly, in my view, in the payroll of Wike. Now, having said that, let's understand this. The Chief Justice went to the turning of the sword on a judicial housing project by the Minister for the Federal Capital Territory, right? Now, judicial housing cannot be done by litigants who come to the court. And the FCT High Court, the FCT as a government has to sue before the courts, and their cases go up to the Court of Appeal, to the Supreme Court. When those cases go up, they are parties. And if they are parties before the same judges whom they are housing, there's a problem. That is why the judiciary is an independent arm of government, and the judiciary has always awarded its own contracts. Court of Appeal headquarters was built by judiciary. The Supreme Court was built, judiciary does its own procurements. That's why they established the NJC. Okay? Now, we have this orgy of people in power across the country. To be honest, it's not Mr. Wike only alone that does it. All of them do it. And my position has always been the same, right? And the judiciary has been acquiescent in this practice of being compromised manifestly by people who litigate before them. And I've got to give the example of JIC Taylor, John Idowu Conrad Taylor, who was the Chief Justice of Lagos State, because at the time he headed the Judiciary of Lagos State, he was the first Chief Justice of Lagos State. He died suddenly in 73. JIC Taylor, in 71, shortly after the war, was invited by Mobolaji Johnson to a party, a reception for the head of state, to accompany him to receive the head of state who was visiting Lagos formally. And JIC Taylor declined that invitation because he said he could not afford to be seen in that kind of situation with potential litigants in his court. Two things happened in this particular case. Number one, the Chief Justice, or three things. Now, the Chief Justice went to this thing with an active litigant before her court. That's number one. Number two, the building itself, the process, the entire construction is being done by an active litigant before the court system that she heads, and with cases, who has cases before the Supreme Court as we speak. Number three, at that event, even if she didn't know any of those things and she didn't consider any of those things, at that event, Wike himself told the story of how he expropriated the land with no notice, contrary to the requirements of the law, the Public Lands Acquisition Act, right? With no notice, and in fact, the Land Use Act. He has the powers, yes, but you've got to give notice. He told the story that he invited the chairperson of the board or chief executive of Julius Berger to dinner, and the following morning sent them a revocation letter. The Chief Justice sat there quietly, said nothing. President of the Court of Appeal sat there quietly, said nothing, and they could not find the legs to walk out without doing anything. That for me says a whole lot. I don't even need to use adjectives. Just describing that alone tells me a whole lot about the judicial values of the people who run the judiciary. And that, to say that that is worrying, is an understatement.
This issue that we're discussing is not new to me. It didn't start today. We've been in this field for a while, playing the game. Prof is also not new to this. It's not like he started doing it because of any individual. No, he's been in this for a long time. At a time, we've been pushing even for the scrapping of the rank of senior advocates because it is an anomaly. It reduces some lawyers, so there is no equality before the law. As you know, if you go to court, you're not an SAN, and an SAN is there, he gets to do his case before you. So his client has more access to court than your own client. So there's no equality before the law. Now, that's an issue for another day. The judiciary have now managed to colonize that arm of government. It belongs to them. It doesn't belong to the people. So they don't owe the people any explanation. And that is why the judges can do anything they like. And Nigerians too have given up. They treat the judiciary like it is not our property. Let them do what they want. It is not correct. These judges ought to serve us. They ought to be responsible to us and be responsive to us. I have been stung by the very scorpion that I've been trying to kill for a long time. Some years ago, Prof and I, with some of our colleagues in the Open Bar Initiative, wrote to the President Buhari, and we stopped the appointment of judges who were children, girlfriends, PAs, and all sorts of judges and their cronies. And Buhari stopped that appointment, and people insulted us. Some were happy with what we did. But do you know that 2 years later, they did that appointment secretly without any public advertisement? The same people that we stopped, they are all judges now. If we appear before them, what do you think they will do to us? One of them the other day, she's a daughter of Mary Odili, saw me on the High Court. And you see the kind of eye she looked at me, like if you have a gun, you shoot me. Nobody is doing this because we hate the other. We're doing it to move this nation forward. Our democracy today is where it is basically because of the judiciary. If the judiciary can rise up, INEC would not rig election because they know it will be reversed or cancelled and they will have to repeat it over and over and over again. But today, INEC will try to do a good election. When the politicians hijack it, INEC will help them compromise it eventually, and the court will come and seal it. Do you know that as a petitioner, an election petition, you are laughed at by the judges, you are laughed at by the respondent council. They laugh at you. So it's as if you're coming there to waste their time. They frustrate you. This is a case I filed when I ran for Senate. Clearly in the petition, you could see I was talking of beavers. I pleaded it, but the tribunal said I did not plead beavers. What kind of illiterates were they? Couldn't they read? We went to the Court of Appeal. They said, see, he pleaded it in all of these places. And that was what Prof referred to, that the interlocutory appeals, the Court of Appeal seemed independent. But then, when we concluded that case, we went on appeal, and the panel that was hearing all the interlocutory no longer was competent to hear the main appeal. They removed 2 members, senior judges, the presiding and one other, and brought 2 from outside. The moment some senior lawyers and even justices of that court heard that the son-in-law of the president of the Court of Appeal is in that panel, they told me, oh boy, forget it. The woman has interest. Anywhere that boy is, she has already secured something. That was the word. So I didn't bother myself. But we went through. And the judgment, because I'm a lawyer should reasonably know a case he will win or lose. What do judges do? They apply facts to law. It's not magic. Now you see a court of appeal deliberately misquoting the Supreme Court on what is a public document in a case where the Supreme Court said that a letter written by an individual in his hand is a private document. But if he submits that letter to a public institution like the police, that letter becomes a public document. Even copies made from it are public documents. This Court of Appeal said, no, that judgment said he can keep a copy as private document. That is a lie. I had to go back and read that judgment in case I didn't understand what the Supreme Court. I read it over and over again. And I saw that they were just struggling to defend nonsense. And because you can't go to Supreme Court to try again, it becomes dangerous to leave the Court of Appeal, which is perhaps the most corrupt court, competing with the Federal High Court now, to be determining all of our houses of assembly, our House of Representatives, and Senate, because that is what they do. The president of the Court of Appeal has the sole discretion of setting up tribunals, including for legislative elections. And then she set up panel to hear appeals from those tribunals. So she can determine your fate even before you file your petition with proper arrangement. That was what happened to me. The arrangement was solid. Even before I filed my petition, my fate was sealed. So we cannot say we are doing democracy and then we have some judges playing ping pong with our laws and with our emotions and with our courts. We put them there. The outrage must be there. I thought that Nigerians will go out and say, Monica, you must resign after those stupid judgment they gave in Plateau State National Assembly and House of Assembly cases. That her son-in-law was in those panels, and he was just appointed last year into the Court of Appeal. She brought him into the Court of Appeal for the things she wants to be achieving. We cannot allow a judiciary where people with integrity are not qualified to be judges. Most of our judges today are people who have failed in their private practices. They have failed. They got to the bench in order to be earning salaries. So they didn't go there because they are passionate about the job. They went to earn salaries. That is why they will throw themselves over to fight for slot to hear the cases of anybody who pays them. And they don't care about you because for them, they are there to make money, not to serve. Judges who are there because they are passionate about that job hardly make it to any of these celebrated corrupt cases you hear. They can't even, it won't even come near them. How do we deal with these things? I have written a whole topic on judicial reform. Our judiciary, as presently constituted, for the Federal High Court, for the State High Courts, High Court of the FCT, is okay. It is okay if we will follow the Constitution. Like I said, they didn't transition to democracy. The intent of the 1999 Constitution is that every judge will be appointed from among legal practitioners. From among legal practitioners, including a chief judge. There is nothing like the most senior judge becoming chief judge or chief justice of Nigeria or president of Court of Appeal. Go and read the Constitution. They are to be appointed from legal practitioners. The Constitution only made exception for acting capacity. When the chief judge's office is vacant, you bring the highest, the most senior, to act until a replacement is appointed. But they have cornered it into their own. They elevate themselves when each court is independent of the other. Your employment as a high court judge does not qualify you to go and jump into Court of Appeal. It's a different court. If you want to go to Court of Appeal, you apply as a lawyer, 12 years post-call, you go there. Supreme Court, 15 years post-call, you go there. High Court, 10 years post-call, you apply. So that now the process of recruitment would be something we all monitor. MBA will be part of it. Remove this NJC nonsense because it's just a charade. They go there to gist. Olumide Apata told us they don't punish anybody. Because he told us they hate him. He's one of the most hated past NBA presidents because he exposed them. Forget about NJC. It needs to be reformed thoroughly. Judges have no business being in NJC. Ordinary, reasonable man should be in NJC so that reasonable man standard will be used to reassess judges, whether they are performing or not, and kick them out. A judge who is employed as a judge for FCT High Court should know his jurisdiction properly delineated. The chief judge should not assign cases to him. Only cases that arise from his jurisdiction should come to him naturally. And he is in that court until he retires. If it's a problem, people complain and they sack him. Another person is appointed. Today, they just keep appointing judges up and down, left, right, center. You don't even know where they are. Chief judge just keep, okay, let me now save us some time and talk about the last crazy judgment that came up. That Abdul Malik or whatever. I know a senior lawyer who told that woman, she has never practiced before she became a judge. She was working with shipping lines and then finished her job with the shipping lines, came out with money and approached him that she wanted to be a judge. He said, let me see your resume. He looked at it, he said, you have no practice experience. He said, she has hit the year post call and she's ready to pay for it. He said, my dear, you are not qualified. I cannot help you. To his greatest shock, he saw her name in the final list. She became a federal high court judge. Why wouldn't such a judge delve into a matter that is strictly a state high court case? Because we are talking about a state appropriation. It's a state house of assembly law. What has the federal high court got to do with it? Why will the federal high court go and be interpreting state appropriation or decide to now remove a federating unit from Nigeria? Because effectively that is what she has done. That judge is supposed to have been kicked out by now. Nigerians are not angry enough until we are angry about these things, until we show that the judiciary must bend to the will of Nigerians, not their personal interests. We are not going anywhere. And I'm happy we're beginning to have these discussions. I must commend Mindset. I must commend Prof. We need to take it out of the social media and begin to meet physically to address them. We cannot be afraid of them. We cannot say we will not talk because they will stop some benefits coming to us. If they don't give you briefs, go and farm. Fight these people until we get this country working again.
A lot of people are not comfortable with it, especially those from the PDP and LP. They do not like it when I say things like this, but this is my view, right? The so-called opposition have failed themselves, right? Now, we talk about the judiciary is doing wrong, the judiciary have not done. What have the opposition, the so-called opposition, done about it? Absolutely nothing. The most important thing that one think that they should be focusing on, no one is talking about it. And you want to go and contest election in 2027 with this judiciary. You see, people are not comfortable when I speak like this, and I don't owe anybody any apology. If you know me very well, I don't care whose horse is go. The opposition has failed themselves. Yeah, the people will do what they can do. You want to contest election in 2027, and the most important thing, which should be judicial reform, is not something you're focusing on every time we are here talking about things that will not make a difference. There are two things I believe that I believe that the opposition should have focused on: judicial reforms and electoral reforms. And as it stands right now, I'm not serious. I don't care who you support, sir. You know, I don't care. These are the most important things one expect these individuals to talk about. No, they don't talk about it. And then you want to rule. Who do you rule? I'm not doing the things. Look at the case you make reference to. These are the conversations that these guys need to have before you say, why people do my bits and I'm not going to. Am I going to be the president? No, I'm not contesting to be the president. But if you're serious or if you want to lead, and the most important conversation is not what you're speaking on, you know, I will leave it at that. And as I said, I know people don't feel comfortable when I speak this way, you know. I do not care how you feel.